Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John, and this is episode 316. Amazing. Each and every week, I sit down and I answer your questions. If you have a question, please send them to the podcast at this address, podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. Kind of real interesting mix of questions this week. We had a couple of questions I'm not going to answer. They're clearly medical intervention questions, and just remember, folks, I'm a strength coach. I do what I do. I know what I know, but I'm not going to give you advice about surgeries and stuff. Unless I'm performing the surgery. All right, let's get started. Nathan, I am 80 kilos, 5'10", 32-year-old intermediate lifter with decent strength standards and experience in all the power lifts, Olympic lifts, and kettlebell standards. I normally work out at my home gym, which has a chin-up dip bar power station, double 24 kettlebells, double 32s. He's a school teacher and has a solid month of off every summer. Good, yeah, I love that. Where I can dedicate more time to lifting, and I'm planning on getting into a fully equipped gym to make the most of it. I was thinking of running your one lift a day program published on T Nation for 3 weeks. Would you recommend running this program if it means that I will only do it for 3-week period before returning to my regular routine of kettlebells and weighted calisthenics work? Or do you have a better program to recommend for a 1-month intensive barbell program to refresh some of my strength? Well, the one lift a day program worked for me. It was Dave Turner's idea for me to move to it in 1990 and 1991. It was the best 2 years of my Olympic lifting. That's when I snatched 142.5 kilos, which is 314. I cleaned over 400, missed the jerk, which is 182.5. I had big squats, big lifts. And one of the things I was struggling with, was recovery, because at the time I was, 33, 32, 33, 34, something like that. You just don't recover. So Dave had this great idea. We were training at the Upper Limit Gym to do Bob Benarski, Joe Doobie, and George Pickett's program of basically one lift a day. Interesting, I read this in Dennis Reno's newsletter years ago, is that one of the Bulgarian coaches was asked where they came up with all these great ideas. And they said, interesting, from the training programs in Strength and Health magazine in 1968, 1969. And I thought that was funny because, these guys would go in, make a big lift, and, maybe add a couple sets of squats after and walk out the door, basically, okay? So one lift a day worked for me because I basically followed the Benarski template from the article, 1973's article about like without the press or something like that. If you're not an established lifter, now, and don't forget, even in 1990, I'd been Olympic lifting 16 years. For me, what helped the most about one lift a day is that I only had one recovery a day. For you, I wouldn't recommend it. I have used one lift a day with elite throwers, and it works well. I will recommend it for Highland Games athletes because I think it ties in well to that sport too. But for those who don't know what I'm talking about, basically, and I have it I have it in a number of places in my books, but, when I was doing it, on Monday I would power snatch. If I get the order wrong, I apologize. Tuesday was front squat, usually for me. Wednesday was power clean. Friday was jerks. And then on Saturday, I would have a reasonable total with the other guys on the team. And the idea was to have a level of meat. So, I would do my best to warm up, take 3 attempts up to whatever the target of the day was, 80%, or, within 20 kilos of my opener, within 10 kilos of my opener, whatever it would be. And just try to go, on the lifts 3 for 3, but with plenty of warm-ups and meat-like conditions. Week 1 was 7 sets of 5. I got to tell you, Tuesday, 7 sets of 5 in the front squat was rough. I did more than just that, of course. I undulated loads. Week 2 was 6 sets of 3. And week 3 was a set of 5, a set of 3, and then a heavy as I could go, double. But the rule was I had to make the double. I couldn't do a single and a crappy second lift and go, I would have made it. No, it had to be a clear double. And on week 4, which is something I never really appreciated until now, was a deload week. Basically then, a couple times I went to Dave Turner's middle school and with the team, and I did, they did a long broomstick warm up, and then I would just do some light lifts. So 3 days on week 4 were broomsticks and just mobility. In hindsight, that was probably the smartest part of the program. Unless you're established, and you also have to be kind of big. I'm not sure this would work with lighter athletes. This is a super heavy or heavyweight program, so I like it. Now, if you don't know what to do, and you're ever looking for a tough program, I have the program, Nathan, called the Transformation Program. You can make it run from 2 to 6 weeks. You could probably push it to 2 months. Good program, very simple, only 6 exercises, and it's like this. I'll just give you one variation. Everything is 3 sets of 8, and the moment that 8th rep is done, you have 1 minute rest to start the next round. The killer is the 3rd set, because you're still huffing and puffing from sets 1 and 2. And that's why it's, even when I was lifting good weights, I tried 165 on the front squat one time, 3 sets of 8 with a minute rest. And this is the first time I realized how great this program was. Of course, later I did much more weight, but I just remember stepping under the bar for the 3rd set and going, so there's value in training. It's a fun tonic. So day 1, military press, 3 sets of 8, minute rest, recover, power curl, 3 sets of 8. And that's it for the day. I would include ab work or technical work if I were you. Wednesdays, overhead squat and front squat, 3 sets of 8. Week 1, you do overhead squat and then front squat. Week 2, you front squat, then you overhead squat. Again, ab work, and do whatever you think you need to work on. Friday, whip snatches, which is the high hang snatch, a power snatch, high hang snatch, power snatch. And then clean grip snatch to about, I would start mine just below the knees, 3 sets of 8, 1 minute rest. Do your abs, do what else you think. Fun little program. For those of you who are ever interested in like a 1 month thing, and I'm sure a lot of you are, I love this kind of idea of like for a month, if you have a month, go do a powerlifting program for a month, 3 days a week or whatever the workout is. You could do the West Side stuff. Just try it for a month. But I guess the caveat, the warning, Nathan, to everybody is if you're going to do something like Olympic lift 3 days a week for a month intensively, or 5 days, whatever you decide to do, make sure you get the whole month in. And at the end of the month, you sit back, you look at it and say, did I learn any lessons? When I learn lessons, I always write them down, because I got to tell you folks, it's real easy to forget things. Nathan, I hope that I helped you on that. If you're thinking about just pushing yourself with a 1 month program, I would suggest maybe take the last 4 weeks of the armor building formula, the high volume presses, and the alternating armor building complex work. That would be a fun little thing, but I would prefer you do the whole program, but I like where you're going here. I hope that helped, Nathan. It's tough sometimes. Just remember, not all programs fit everybody, which is a life lesson that you're going to learn and relearn and relearn. Okay, thank you. We have a question from Paul, a relatively easy question. The rite of passage sets out as a goal for a half body weight kettlebell press for men. Most men I know that I usually work with, that would be the Beast. I guess, now there's the 44 and the 40, but, it used to be, I think we went 40 to 48. I still think there's value to that. For many men, this might be 48 kilos. Way back in the day, Sig Klein, and I've got some of his articles up there, set the goal of a 75-pound dumbbell clean and press for 12 reps. Some have adjusted this to a double 32 kettlebell clean and press for 12 reps. Which do you think is a better goal for the average man? Well, clearly, the big one here, Paul, is you're talking about a single hand thing. The RKC, standard for what was going to be the standard for the RKC2, and Sig Klein with a dumbbell goal. I would say this: I think doing 32 kilo clean and press, and in this example, I'm using clean press style for 12 reps. I think that would be the kind of goal that people would notice. When you're doing a heavy single, and there's nothing, I love heavy singles. I mean, come on, it's how you do things in competition. And I'm always, as many questions I answer about kettlebells and stuff like that, and body comp and all the rest. I'm a performance guy. I like to have my name called and have to walk in the ring and prove it there. I like that. But you could probably get yourself up to a 48 kilo press, 106 pounds for my American friends. And no one even noticed that you lift weights. But if you did the double 32s for 12s, I'm pretty sure that when you're wearing a t-shirt, someone would go, huh. So, Paul, in the most, narcissistic of levels, I think the 12 reps with 32 is a better one because you'll look good. And the other thing too is a lot of us, not necessarily me and the people I work with, but a lot of people I know, when they chase singles, that's very often where the injuries come. So I'm hedging myself on the 12 with the 32, but it is kind of cool to be able to just pick up any bell in the gym and press it up. So I would go, for most of you, the 12 with the 32, but at the same time, it should be nice to press that 48 for one. In my adaptation of, so I'm coming out with a new book on the armor building formula. I don't know when it'll be done, but I have a lot of charts in there from the research that tells you, it's imaginary, but if you can do this many reps with this weight, you should be able to do a single with that. And for a lot of people, those charts work. For a lot of people, they don't. But it's always fun to test your max with reps. For most people, it's a little bit safer. But of course, I think, step on the platform and pulling a big deadlift and doing, like my brother does, who does kind of those higher rep deadlifts, both have values for different things. I hope that helped. Well, we have a question from Daniel. What a lovely name. If you were to design a systematic progression from novice to mastery using any kettlebell program of your choice, including your own, how would you structure it? So the first thing, and I like this question, Daniel. So in other words, there are, if there's 100,000 people on the planet who do kettlebells, there's probably 300,000 programs. Kettlebells they lend themselves to a lot of programs. When I first came up on kettlebells, the program minimum was still being discussed a lot. And it's too bad because I still think there's value to it. And that is, the program minimum was 2 days a week you'd swing, and then 2 days a week you'd Turkish get up. Now, as I'm speaking this in the mid 2020s, I look at people online doing swings. I look at people doing Turkish get-ups online on these videos, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's not what we meant by either of those exercises. So done correctly, the hard style 3, that's the swing, the goblet squat, and the Turkish get-up, really opened the door for everything. And that brings in one of my programs called the Humane Burpee. One of the reasons I like the Humane Burpee so much, and I gotta say it again, I guess, and that's 15 swings, 5 goblet squats, 5 push-ups, 15 swings, 4 goblet squats, 4 push-ups, 15, 3-3, 15, 2-2, 15, 1-1. But what's nice about it is you get swings, you get squats, you get press-ups or push-ups, and you're getting up and down off the ground. You're getting the benefits of most things you want to do in a normal training system. So what I would recommend, if you're going to do a program, if you were to add goblet squats into the warm-up, and you did something like the program minimum for a real beginner, and just experimented with it. From there, I would move into, of course, I think the probably, well, it's my favorite, so I gotta be careful. I was about to say the best kettlebell exercise, but clearly that's my favorite, so I'm kind of sliding on that side of it, is the clean and press family. And of course, we have armor building formula, which I would really think is underappreciated for that late beginner, early intermediate period. What's great about the armor building formula is you're mixing high rep presses, alternating days, with the armor building complex, which is 2 cleans, 1 press, and 3 front squats. Well, that combination probably is what most people want from any lifting exercise. It does give you basic hypertrophy. It really builds up the shoulders. It seems to build up some people's butts from what I'm reading over at Reddit. And a lot of people talk about how all of a sudden they do, it does impact them in all phases of their life. When I come out with a supplement to it, I'm also including more loaded carries added to it. So in armor building complex for fat loss, we do suitcase carries and farmer walks as after the presses and after the ABC. Suitcase carries, that's the one-handed farmer walk, is something you should probably include right in the beginning. So at first, you just want to orient people with the kettlebell. The swing might be too advanced, so maybe I would use the Bulgarian goat bag swing, even the hip thrust if we have to take it down to that level. Hip thrust, Bulgarian goat bag, the other variations like the RDL swing and the waiter's bow. On the Turkish getup, you could just add, break it down into components, into the small little pieces. And then make sure they're on the program minimum with the goblet squat, the armor building complex, armor building formula stuff. Making sure you add, after some mastery there, add in some of the loaded carry family, waiter walk, suitcase carry are givens almost in my mind. And then of course you could slide over to the farmer walk. From there, now it depends on what do you want. Now, if you want a challenge, a 10,000 swing challenge is a fun thing to do. If you want a challenge, getting yourself the 5-minute snatch test or the Secret Service one, which is the 10-minute test. Those would be fun things to do. But you'll notice that we've been doing clean and presses for a long time, and now I'm talking about the snatch. I think the snatch has to come in a little later. I think you need a lot more foundation. That's my opinion. Once you get yourself to being able to press half body weight with a kettlebell overhead and doing 200 snatches with the 24K in 10 minutes, you've pretty much taken care of what you need to with the kettlebell. From there, you might want to experiment around, play around with the windmill and the bent press family occasionally for fun. But to me, that would be. Let me just shape this up for you, okay? Orientation, learn how to do the movements. The hard style 3 program minimum. Add in the humane burpee for the hard days. Okay. Move to the armor building formula with loaded carries. Learn how to snatch correctly. Chase the 5-minute test. Chase the 10-minute test. From there, then play around with the windmill and bent press family if you like, and you don't have to do any of this. And then, if you cycle through that a few times, I think you'd have a pretty good program. Good question, fun question. Thanks a lot. Okay, we have a question from Henri, and he says, I'm a 43-year-old kettlebell enthusiast who has been doing kettlebells only versions of Easy Strength as one of my main programs for 2 years now. In my current run-through of Easy Strength, I am doing double kettlebell presses, pull-ups, double kettlebell front squats, and swings as my push-pull squat hinge exercises. That's really good, Henri. That's good. I know you advocate varying the intensity of train days in Easy Strength by doing heavy, medium, and light train days. Yeah. On some heavy days, though, I feel that the heavy presses and squats have sapped some of my let's go energy when I do the swings. When I sometimes done these situations is don a lighter set of kettlebell swings and move the planned heavy swings to an upcoming lighter day. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So the question, folks, for those of you doing Easy Strength, and you'll find all that information in the Easy Strength Omni book over at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. Easy Strength Omni book is by far one of the most underrated things I've ever done in my life. I was looking at it the other day. It's really good. And, I don't usually read my own work, but, I got myself reading some of the stuff and I was like, I wish I'd have known that when I was young. If you have to, and in fact, you could do this. This is an option. I'll come to the option when I finish. Okay, hold on. What do you think about this idea of spreading the intensity of exercise, not just across different workout days, but also within each day, so long as each exercise gets the right amount of heavy, medium, light workouts during the week? Are there hidden trade-offs here that I might not have considered? Well, boy, I tell you, I've had a lot of people do kettlebell easy strength, and this is the most elegant question I've had, and I appreciate it. So let's throw in suitcase carries too here, okay? So in your training week of 5 exercises, the press, the pull-up, the front squat, and the swing, and I want you to do suitcase carries too. So there's 5 exercises. I want you to do it 5 days a week. The Henri option is going to be, I like this idea. So maybe on Mondays is the hard and heavy press day. Presses don't personally take a lot out of me, so I might be able to go medium on all 4 of those other lifts. On Tuesday will be the hard pull-up day. Now, pull-ups do take a lot out of me. So on those other work exercises, that'll be the light day. Double front kettlebell front squats is day 3's hard day. And I'm going to tell you and it's okay to have 2 easy practice days back to back. So easy on day 3. Day 4 is swings, and that's the heavy, hard swing day. And personally, swings don't take really much out of me at all. So I would suggest going medium with that whole day. And on that 5th day, you're going to go medium, 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 medium. And then when it comes to the suitcase carry, and it's funny because day 5 very often is Friday in my gym. And Friday is loaded carry day. So it works out perfectly if you're here with us. And that'll be the day you push the suitcase carries. I got to tell you, for those listening, sometimes I'll answer a question and I'll realize that I really need to write another book about something. Thank you, Henri, because it's interesting as I'm answering the question. It's like that is such a natural thing to do, but I'm glad you brought up the question. On one other thought is if we got rid of the idea of medium and light and then did something in the middle of those two, medium, the might workouts. I don't know what light means to any of you listeners. People who use percents will say 60 and 70. And even then, sometimes I think, because if you lift big weights, 6 times, 60% of 600 is still a pretty good deadlift, or squat or front squat or whatever. But whatever, somewhere between light and medium, it might be an idea to go pick a heavy, like we just went through. We just went through the 5, press, on this day and, this day and that day, this day, heavy. And on the other exercises, 2 sets of 5 or whatever, obviously not with the swing, but, or the suitcase carry, but that might load, somewhere between medium and light. And I tell you this, over the weeks, as those, let's just say, I'm just gonna, what would be 20 kilos might be my might load, okay, for the double kettlebell press. If I'm doing that, 2 sets of 5, 4 days a week, and then the hard day, pretty soon those double 20s aren't going to be very heavy. And as I nudge up to the double 24s, that's progress. That nudge up after 3-4 weeks, that's where progress starts to really fun. Thank you. I thought this was a fun question. In fact, you're literally a gentle listener and gentle YouTube. You're watching me in real time going, I need to think more about this. So I really appreciate it. And I need to think more about this. Thank you. Mike has a question. I have found with kettlebells, I can often lift heavier bells for more reps when using doubles than singles. For example, I can do more reps with a mismatched pair of a 24 and a 20 than I can with a single 24 bell on one side. I assume that this is because the doubles require me to engage more full body tension. Bing. If that is correct, what are some of the cues that you can recommend to engage full body tension when doing single side presses? If I'm wrong, I'd like to know your thoughts and what I'm missing. So it's interesting because you are a little unique on this, Mike, but it's a good question because if you can't figure out how to lock and load and turn your whole body into a platform, you're going to have to learn how to do it somehow. Mike, I want you to try an experiment for me, and the rest of you certainly can listen in too. Generally, most people I know people who can press the beast with both hands, but they can't press it, do it double. So they can press the beast with one hand, they can press the beast with the other hand, but they can't do it two-handed. And when they ask me, it's pretty obvious to me. Well, when you're pressing single side, this is general, not yet for you, Mike. I have one body, I got two legs, and I'm pressing one arm. When I double the load, 2 kettlebells, I still just have one body and 2 legs. So you do lose some of the factors. What I want you to try is this. It's real simple. I hope you know the suitcase position, but I want you to try some single side presses with the bell dangling in the suitcase position. What that's going to do is, without you even have to engage your brain at all, it's going to lighten up that other side. The other thing I want you to do is hold on the rack while you press too. The way I'm built, hi, I'm Dan John, and I'm built this way. The suitcase hold while I press really engages everything I need to engage. Other people might get a lot more out of the rack. Now, there is a style called the touchdown press, and there is, I don't know, so the touchdown press is when you start at the top and bring down. You might even want to try, but go lighter on this one, get a 24 in this hand, and something like maybe even a 12. Hold that ahead. So suitcase carry, rack, and now touchdown press, waiter walk style, and see what happens there. Now that last one is going to be, could end up being a comedy of errors. The first set you trying to figure out, you're going to double clean the weights, you're going to press the 12, and you're going to leave it up there while you press the 24. It might take a set or two to get the rhythm of it, but you should be fine. I like this idea, Mike. And for those of you listening, if you try it, let me know how it goes, because I am really interested in this. It's kind of fun. 2 back-to-back questions that get me kind of, you can always tell when I'm excited. I start getting kind of slobbery and getting all fired up. So I like this. Thank you. Mario has a question. I'm a 37-year-old guy who trains mainly for strength and looks. I'm hoping body composition looks. But as I approach middle age, well, okay, you're going to live to be 74, okay. I want to maximize my remaining prime years and lay the groundwork now good for what awaits me in 10 years. 47 is still young, son. In your opinion, what is harder to improve past the age of 45, strength or muscle mass? And how would you lay out the training years so that I can maximize my potential in both areas before I switch into more maintenance mode from 50 upwards? Yeah, actually, I've noted this many times. I break the years down a little bit differently. I go basically from birth to 16. That's when you should learn as many sports and games as you can. You should learn as many lifts as you can, calisthenics, running, jumping, everything, bike riding, rowing boats, as many things you can. 17 to 35, that's your prime real estate years. Me, I think that's a good time to do ballistic things, including, this is when you should be doing collision sports and collision occupations. You can Olympic lift now. You could do the kettlebell, ballistics. Where you're at, 35 to 55, and you're right, and this is important. This is the second group, I break it down. This is when it's really important to get something I call everyday strength. If you were to take 6 months off, Mario, and come back, what would you lift in 3 days? Well, whatever those numbers are in 3 days, that's your everyday strength. And that's outside of investments, that's one of the best investments you can make in your life. I mean, if you take 6 months off and, work out 3 times, and you've got good solid numbers in a press, a squat, a hinge movement, a suitcase carry, I don't know, a chin up, pull up or something like that. You don't lose much. That's a good foundation. That's your investment. That's your everyday strength. And that's going to stick around a long time. You took 6 months off and it stayed. That's going to stay a while. So the most important thing I think you can build up in your age range is not just getting as strong as you can, but being as strong as you can, kind of as easy as you can, as simply as you can, strength that will stick, have some stickiness to it. After 56, of course, I recommend, and this is what I'm doing, you really focus on lean body mass. I lift weights 2 to 3 days a week, 3 days a week almost universally. I walk at least 10,000 steps a day. I eat 2,600 calories. I do joint mobility every day. I use a sauna to actually help me with mobility work. I do mobility work in the sauna. Don't break. Where you're at in your age right now, the most important thing you can do, well, there's a couple of givens of ways, I've done this with my hand and ignored. First off, Art Devaney said it better than I ever. Don't get fat in the first place. Do your best. If you're not where you need to be on body fat percents, and I honestly don't even know what the numbers are anymore, because I'll go to some places online, they'll say, could you imagine being that fat? He's 10% body fat. Yeah, really. I liked Josh Hillis's numbers for women. He always talked about 19% being rock star hot, and I'm amazed when you'll see a woman at 19%, and I got to tell you, Josh is right. Certainly, women can get a lot leaner than that. It doesn't. It's a style, and that's fine. Usually, competitors. For men, I get water weighed because that was the system I grew up with. But now with these DEXAs, you can get a lot more information. I don't know much else. I send my coach my body weight, my measurements, and a photo every week. And I find that the photo, and this is right out of Frank Zane, the great Mr. Olympia's insights, I find the photo to be the most, that's true. Measurements, my measurements, my waistline seem to go up and down. It's like blood pressure, all I look for on measurements is the trend. I want my waistline to go this way, and I want, certain other things to go that way. But where you want to be right now is, yes, I want you to be as strong as you can. Yes, I want that, but not at the expense. I don't want you to weigh, over 300 pounds so you can bench 225. I want you to be a lean, mean fighting machine as best you can, okay? A little Stripes reference for you. Long term, the investments for most of my listeners, and when I look at, YouTube gives us statistics, and I know who my readership is. A lot of my readership is in this 35 to 55 age range. And folks, at that age range, powerlifting is fine, Olympic lifting is fine, kettlebells are fine, machines are fine, everything's fine. But make sure in that cohort, you're striving for strength at the same time as you're doing the 2-arm push away from desserts, appetizers, or whatever chips or crisps or whatever your thing is. Push away. You've got to really keep an eye on that. Staying lean in that time is as important as anything. It's going to help with your long-term blood profiles. Interesting. My eye doctor the other day. My vision has improved in this time that I've been losing a pound a month for 4 years now. Because my blood sugar is under better control. And when your blood sugar is in better control, less damage to the eyes, I guess. At least that's what he thinks. And that's kind of cool, I thought. For those of us over 56, now's time to train like you see online. It's time to bodybuild. Let those reps. Now, if you come in, Mario, at my age and you're still really strong and you start adding high reps, Good things happen, okay? When people ask me what builds muscle, heavy weights or high reps, my answer is always yes. Heavy weights with high reps builds muscle. Not a lot of people like that, but I think it's true. Okay, great question. I hope that helped. Okay, we have a question from Juan. My name is Juan, a 39-year-old firefighter in the UK. I've been consistent with my training for pretty much all my life, and my routine is balanced, I would say. My question to you is, what do you think would be a good core routine for firefighters? Details like exercises, sets, and reps, and how many days a week would be appreciated. I've answered this question about firefighters numerous times on this podcast, and I'll answer basically again. I already try to implement your core advice to the best of my ability. I do lots of goblet squats and any kind of squat, loaded carries, suitcase carries, etc. I would just like some structure because although I've been training my core for years, I always struggle with knowing if I got it exactly right. Well, okay, folks, we're talking about the core. I hate the phrase. I like the word column better. Column is the area between the neck and the knees, okay? And I like that better. So general training for firefighters, the best thing I've ever come up with is complexes. If you just type in my name and complexes online, or you go to danjohnuniversity.com, the original article was over at T-Nation. It's my conversations about complexes. Now, back when I wrote the article, it was a different time, but complexes have been around since the dawn of weightlifting. They have different names, but and of course the great Soviet Olympic lifter Vasily Alexiev, he did, and so did David Riegert. They did lots of complexes in their training. So you'd have to be around before the 1960s to have invented it. But so in my definition, a complex is any exercise where the load never leaves your hand. So circuit training is a series of exercises back to back to back to back, but you might do a leg extension followed by a chin up over there, followed by a handstand push up over there. You let go of the equipment and moved on. Both have value. My complexes tend to be, for firefighters, I tend to recommend barbell complexes. When you find that article, you'll find complexes A through F. C is our favorite one at the gym. A is just called that because that was the first one. That was the first one we typed up for the sheets. But C, and then we have a snatch complex I do with my throwers, and that's this will be for a set of 8, but you'll get a sense of how we do it. 8 snatch grip RDLs, 8 squat snatches, 8 overhead squats, 8 back squats, put the bar on the ground. That's 24 squats back to back to back. That's a tough one, and boys, it warmed me up. The barbell is a lot the first time you try it. Obviously, with the armor building formula with kettlebells, I certainly believe, and I think that would be a great template for a firefighter. In fact, there's a part of me who just wants to say, go to danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore, buy the armor building formula, do that. However, we had so much success with the local firemen here back when I was coaching their sons. All the kids would come home and dad say, "What are you doing?" And they'd say, "I don't know, coach is having us do this." And the dads, I think I must have had, I printed out quite a few. The article on complexes plus these big printed sheets with the complexes on them. I must have, if I said 10 or 12 of those to local firefighters who came by to ask for it. I thought that was kind of cool. But that's the thing I think firefighters need. As for the other stuff, the more you work on your craft, is the better you are as a firefighter, the better your crew is, the safer you are. If everybody in the crew, is in reasonable shape and we're doing things correctly, I think all of us feel a little bit safer. So you have a homework assignment. You're going to Google my name plus complexes, and then you're to go to my website and buy the book. You'll also find some of my complex works in my book, Never Let Go, And I'm sure, oh yeah, and in Mass Made Simple, I forgot. I think we do Complex C in Mass Made Simple. And again, it was Mass Made Simple. I mean, really, I was talking to Mike Brown and TJ Bruner today about it. The foundation of Mass Made Simple, the original, was complexes and the high rep back squats. Later, we added the military press with kettlebell and bench press just because I was working with American football players and we didn't want to go 6 weeks without any pressing work. Okay, I hope that helped. It's a good question. If we're going to talk about core, there's 3 exercises I'll talk about. There's 3. This is my 3 favorite core exercises. I think there's the big 3. The first one would be the ab wheel, and I like it from the knees. I don't like you to freak out. As I tell people sometimes, when you're first doing the ab wheel, obviously you can't do it to yourself, and maybe you have a partner. Put your hand on your abdominal wall. If you feel the ab wall contract into 8 parts or 6 parts, great. If you feel the middle part of that soft part of your belly in between stick through, reposition yourself. Ab wheel, love it. Number 2, no surprise here, the suitcase carry. If you really want a strong core that works well for kicking, striking, throwing, the suitcase carry is your answer. And the third one is kind of funny because this is what Bob Hoffman told President John F. Kennedy back in the 1960s to help with his lower back. Hanging bent knee leg raises. The reason I like hanging bent knee leg raises is, for those of us who've been lifting a long time, we get that weird, it's almost like, my doctor said basically it is a hernia, but you get that where it pokes out here. The nice thing about the hanging bent knee leg raise is first, it works your grip. Second, it's great for your lower back. When you bring those knees up, it relaxes everything. And so for me, combining, you can either do one of those one day, a couple days a week. Monday you're going to do ab wheel, Wednesday suitcase carry, Friday hanging bent knee leg raise. You can do them back to back to back in some kind of little circuit. I do hanging bent knee leg raises twice a week, suitcase carries as planned in the program. But I think you'll really get some real value out of that, okay? Thank you. We have a question from George, and the nice thing is I know who George is. George and I have had many, many experiences together. George is a special operator, and one of my favorite stories of all time is I was doing a thing, and so they put a helmet on me, the goggles, I had to put on a flak jacket, I had to put on all these other things, gloves and everything else. But I was in a short sleeve shirt, and we spent some time, it's called the Kill House, and they went through a lot of ammunition that day. It was strange, and I think George will remember the story. The next day, we were doing something else, and I just remember from where my t-shirt to where my gloves started, I had felt like I had been slapped by, little baseball bats for a couple hours. It was all the concussions from all the ammo going off. So George, thank you, and all my other friends who make the world a bit safer. Let's say I'm currently training full body 2 days a week. Workout A is on Monday and consists of vertical push, hinge, and vertical pull. Workout B is done on Thursday and consists of horizontal push, squat, and horizontal pull. For simplicity's sake, each movement is done for 3 sets of 10. Say I take the exact same exercises, sets and reps, but now I'm stretching them out 6 days a week in a 1 lift a day schedule. 2 OLAD questions in one. It's been a while, and I get 2 in one day. Can you compare and contrast these 2 styles and cons, pros and cons, the pros and cons of each? I'm 49 years old, and my goals are maintenance of strength, hypertrophy, and body comp. First off, George, this is really interesting. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you is you need to add another. I'm not saying you have to squat hard or anything but you have a lot of pushes and you have a lot of pulls because you're doing horizontal and vertical. You got to make sure you keep those squat numbers running just for overall mobility. So maybe if you're squatting hard one day a week, back squat, front squat, overhead squat, Zercher squat, another day a week, make sure you add some, a total of 30 goblet squats in, nice and easy, maybe in the warm-ups or something like that, just to keep that. I'm a big believer that the push, the pull, and the squat numbers need to be exactly, I was about to say practically exactly, but exactly the same each week to keep your mobility and other things in balance, okay? So that would be my first critique. One of the things I like about workout A on Monday and workout B on Thursday is that you circle 2 days a week to go into the gym and say, I'm going to the gym today and doing this. You drop the kids off at school, you make sure that the dog is, whatever the dog is going to do, but the dog's taken care of. You fed the goldfish, you mowed the lawn, whatever it is. And now I'm going to the gym and I'm training. There is value in circling time and saying, this is my training time. A couple weeks back, my daughter called while during my lifting session. She called, I think, about 9:45 in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, hi, Kelly, how are you? And she said, oh my God, you're lifting, and hung up. That's when you know people respect your time training. By the way, there's 3 people on the planet I answer the phone for all the time, no matter what comes up, okay? And my daughters are 2 of them. So the thing I like best about the 2-day-a-week program is that also then gives you 5 days a week to do the things that you, at your age, need. You, because of your time under pressure, you need mobility work, you probably need some long walks. I like the idea. Now, for the body itself, Brad Pilon was talking the other day about the new theories about protein intake. We used to be so regimented, I need 82 grams of protein every day, else my muscles will wane away as I'm sitting here on the podcast. Well, now some of the protein people believe, you could probably do 2 massive 200, Sunday night, eat 200 grams of protein. Don't eat protein for 2 or 3 days, have another 200-pound hit. Whether that's true or not, I'm not worried about it because I've tried that. It's really hard. I liked it, but it's not repeatable for me. But there is value to what you're saying. Now, the biggest con of any one lift a day program is you only train that movement once a week. So there's no excuses. You've got to go in, and if you're going to lift 6 days a week, that means you have to go hard every workout. On your squat day, you can't go in and say, I'm not feeling it, and do the innie-outie machine, okay? Because that's not the same as front squats. On the military press day, your shoulders acting up, when you decide to coast, that means that's 14 days with no real military presses. And this becomes very specific to you, George. From what I know from you, George, I would like you to stick with the A and B schedule. For our other listeners who like this idea, so, you're going to have a Monday's vertical push, Tuesday's hinge. So I'll do it this way. Monday's military press, Tuesday is deadlift, Wednesday's pull-up, Thursday is bench, Friday is front squat, and Saturday is rows. I probably dropped that one out. But I like the idea. I like it. The only problem is it's 6 days a week, and you can't. You just got to keep going. Both options are really good. I like the only, and I'm going to add one last thing because it's you, George. On the day, if you are going to do this, on Monday, you're doing the vertical push, the hinge, and the vertical pull. Do at least one set of push-up, bench press, horizontal push, a squat, and a horizontal pull. On the other day, do at least one set of the vertical push, hinge, and vertical pull. So even though this is you're only hitting those once, come in for that. It's the way we used to say tonic when I was young. It's you go back in and you do that light single set of 10 or 20, whatever it is. And you just do it. It just feels good. It gets everybody moving. Reminds your nervous system of what you're going to be doing in a couple days. And that way you don't have those, and it'll happen, those big gaps where you haven't touched that exercise in a while. Always an honor, George. I hope that helped. Well, hey, that's it. Another great set of questions. Remember, if you have questions for the podcast, send them to this address, podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. Each and every week, I sit down here and I'm honored to answer your questions. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.